And we are underway, broadcasting to you from our North Catholic studios in Cranberry Township with episode number 15 of our podcast on North Catholic Athletics. My name is Alex Brown.
And I'm Ryan Berry.
And together we are your hosts for this podcast. And Ryan, today we're going to dive into boys volleyball.
Yes, we are, Alex. The boys volleyball team, they've got some momentum going early. They played Ambridge tough, and it's gonna be tough to kind of get going because you lost two really vital players in Aiden Ward and Andrew Eubinger. But I mean, they started off pretty fast. Played one of the best teams in the Whitfield Good in Ambridge, and they're looking for more. They got some really good players this year, and they got a lot of depth scoring. As Coach Ball will talk about us in a little bit as we interviewed her. Third interview. Every year we've done with Coach Ball, and they've all been good. So we're looking forward to this season and doing another interview next year for our senior year.
Absolutely. And this team this year, it's a different kind of team. You're able to start on this team two seniors, two juniors, and two sophomores at any given time on this team. It's a younger team. It's a smaller team, but they really support each other during these games that we've seen so far. They're 2-1 on the year. They beat Deer Lakes 3-0. They beat Beaver County Christian 3-0, and then they lost to Ambridge, 3-2 in 5 sets in a really close matchup and a thriller last Thursday at Ambridge. And that's a game where they really struggled to that's a place, I should say, where they really struggled to win the last several years. And it's just a tough place to play. And they have a great team there at Ambridge. Really impressive. And that's a beautiful school, beautiful gym down in Ambridge, too.
And this team is not the tallest team that you'll see. They got some height, though.
Right.
And but the good thing about this team is there's a lot of players who are now juniors who last couple of years they were playing on JV a lot, maybe got a couple shots at varsity.
Right.
But now they're finally getting their chance. Nate Ball played a little bit on varsity last year, but Liam Cook and Trey Pernsley weren't able to play varsity last year and did good on JV. But now they're getting bigger roles on varsity and impacting the varsity games. So
without a doubt,
for them, that's definitely going to be something good to watch.
And also Drew Palmer and Evan Camille, they got time last year as well on the varsity team, playing on a swing role last year. And now Evan Camille, he's your starting libero for North Catholic. And Drew Palmer's been a fantastic outside hitter, and he's done a phenomenal job at that this year. He had 15 kills in that game against Ambridge. Lucas Gunther had 31 kills. He's now the player of the week for 2A, and he's had a phenomenal year so far. He's going to have a phenomenal rest of this year. But as you said, Ryan, it's a lot of increased minutes for some of these people compared to last year. But they do have, a lot of these players do play some club volleyball as well. So it's a lot of players with volleyball experience, and they're having a good start to the year, and they play Olsh tomorrow night.
Yep, and next week they got some challenging games as well as Montour and Hopewell both at home, and we should be broadcasting at least one of those games next week. So
North
looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to that, and some good teams, great teams this year. In 2A, got Armstrong came down from 3A as well, did Latrobe. And Latrobe is currently leading 2A in the last coaches poll. North Catholic is 4th, and they're getting some respect early on in the coaches poll through the first couple of games that they've played, and they're looking to continue that success in the games to come without a doubt. And without further ado, let's talk to Coach Ball.
We're here with North Catholic volleyball coach, Coach Ball. Coach, thank you for coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you, Alex and Ryan.
Coach, this team this year as a whole is smaller, and it's a bit younger, but do you feel that it's closer?
Absolutely. I love how the boys interact and support each other. I usually split the varsity and JV practices, but most of the time the varsity's in there during the JV, and the JV will stay during the varsity, which I love. So it brings the team closer together.
You lost two players and some other players that were very vital to the team's success in Andrew Eubinger and Aiden Ward. How have you been able to fill those roles with some of the other players stepping up so far this year?
So we had a neat group of younger players that came in last year who got quite a few opportunities on varsity, which was great experience. They would play the entire game on JV, and then they would get experience in varsity. So Nate Ball, as a sophomore, had that experience last year, and then Drew Palmer as a freshman last year, and Evan Camille as a freshman last year. So all three of them have stepped into starting roles this year, and very vital roles in the positions that they're playing. And that's helped take I think our team is more well-rounded this year. We're getting output from many players instead of just maybe one or two or even three. I mean, typically on a night we definitely have a couple that get a little bit more kills than others, but then you've got like three that are getting 8 kills a game, and that's just wonderful.
You spoke about some of those guys are getting a lot of kills. I mean, everyone's contributing, as to your point. But Lucas Gunther, 31 kills in that game in that thrilling game against Ambridge last Thursday, and he's the Player of the Week this week.
Absolutely, yes.
So, and Drew Palmer had 15 last week too.
Absolutely.
So what's the confidence that you have and the team has when they go up to strike that ball?
Well, I think typically your outside hitters get more kill attempts because that is the set that's easiest to make at times in case if the passing isn't there. We have been blessed this year with the passing has been, obviously you're always going to be a little streaky, but our passing has been pretty consistent so that we've been able to work in the middle hitters. We've been able to work in, the right side hitter. And so absolutely, with Lucas, he's going to be the one that's going to get the most. We start him in that position for a reason. He basically took over for Andrew Eubinger. But what I've been really impressed with is we are getting Drew Palmer the ball. Nate has gotten 7 kills.
He had 7 kills last game too. That's
He
right.
did. Luke had 8 kills the last game. So it's being distributed, which is wonderful, and we're getting a lot of people involved.
Volleyball seems to be the sport that has like the best camaraderie because you always see after every point everyone cheers. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's like needed for the success for teams to be so like connected?
It might be the personalities we have on our team. I don't know. Maybe because when we get points, it's usually when you're getting a kill or destroying the ball, or there's an ace, so somebody's not, they're shanking the ball on the other end. And maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. They just seem to really gel together this year. And they have been. We've always had teams that have done really well and have really supported each other. But I'm very impressed this year with this group.
Boys volleyball as a whole, in particular, seems like a sport where a lot of people do it because their friends are and because they see it as a good time. And they get it and they're successful. Why do you think the sport has that appeal in general?
You know what? I'm not sure. I think that spring sports have that kind of appeal, and you have it's we're getting out of the winter, the basketball season, which is wonderful. We have wonderful basketball teams, but it's so long, and then you're getting into the longer days and the warmer weather, and I think the boys just, and school's about out, so,
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for that, but I think a lot of that ties into it.
Do you feel that it is that way, though, that it is like a sport that a lot of people do it because they see it as a fun one to do?
I do, but I think once they get in the gym and they realize that we're serious, the boys have a lot of fun, but when we're practicing, we're serious.
Yeah.
And when we're preparing for a game, when we are warming up for a game, we're serious.
Yeah.
They might make the music be a little light to make that, a little bit fun. And you want it to be fun,
Yeah.
but they are serious,
Absolutely.
You mentioned before how many, I guess, depth scoring you guys have. So, like, when teams try to key on Lucas Gunther or Drew Palmer, you have other guys that can get kills. How important is that? So if a team tries to take away Lucas or Drew, that you have, like, Nate and Luke being able to get kills as well?
Absolutely. I think last year, we started off really hot last year, and we ended well. I mean, we were the number 2 team, going into the playoffs. We ended up number 4 coming out of the whips. But I think last year, they kind of figured us out. We were a little bit more one person, always go to Andrew. And this year, I've said from the beginning, we've got so much talent on the team that we need to spread it out. And I think those guys are excited. Now, I think the one that quarterbacks all of that, we've got to have the passing. But once we have the passing, Ro Alessandro has, just been invaluable the last 2 years as our setter. And this year, he's the one that's calling the shots. He's the one moving the ball around. We make recommendations, but he's the one making the decisions based on what he's seeing, the matchups he's seeing, and the boys really talk well on the court as well. They're seeing the court, they're seeing who they're up against, who's blocking against them, and it just seems like an all-around team effort, to get everybody the ball, and we've got a new middle this year, Trey Pernsley, who's doing a great job. We haven't gotten him in the offense as much, but he's getting a block here or there in every game, and he usually gets a couple kills every game.
He does, yeah.
Yes, and that's a new role for him, and typically you do not put a lefty as a middle, but he can jump, and we put him there as a blocker is what we did, and he's doing what we need him to do.
Why is that the case, though, that you wouldn't put a lefty as a middle?
Typically, your lefty is your right side. That's just a natural position for them. And so it was kind of came down to Nate at right side or Trey at right side, and we just felt that our best combo would be Trey in the middle and Nate at right side.
With only 2 seniors this year, how have you seen their leadership? Because when there's only 2, you don't have as many people talking, like being the head.
Right.
How have you seen Luke and Roe, who are sometimes a little bit quieter? How have you seen their leadership this year?
You know what? It's different than in the past. I don't know that I've had quiet seniors in the past. Even and so. But they do motivate, and I mean, Alex, you tell me. I mean, Luke was really hyped during the Ambridge game,
was.
and I think they feed off of that energy, So I think Roe is a quiet leader on the court. I think Luke is more of a vocal leader to try to hype, everyone up. And I think it's worked really well, and I think, Lucas and Nate, with this being kind of Lucas's second year starting and Nate really his second year on varsity, he lettered last year also, those two are playing important roles as well.
Coming into any season, do you carry with it expectations? And if so, after the first couple of games this year, the early returns, if you will, what are yours now moving forward?
Well, in my mind, we should win our section. I really think we should win our section. We had Ambridge. It is so hard to win at Ambridge. We need to win all the home games for sure. And I think at this point, I can see us running the table. That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure. There's some great teams. Montour is the returning Whippeal champions, and they lost a couple key pieces, but they've still got some strong players. They're going to be a tough matchup. Hopewell's got probably the best player in the Whips, and they will be a tough matchup. Olsh coming in on Tuesday. He always puts together a great team at Olsh. He's an excellent coach. So I think in our section, our goal is to win the section. That's our goal, and that still is a strong possibility. We need to win out, but we can do that. And then in the Whips, you got a couple strong teams in the Whips. So Seton and Latrobe are big, and I think the Whips are going to be much more competitive this year than they have maybe in the last 2 years. But again, we've got a strong team, and we will make some noise.
Looking back on that Ambridge game, what are some of your takeaways from that one, and what do you guys need to improve upon going forward?
So the thing is the kids stuck together. They stuck together the entire time. I think we need to put them in more challenging situations at practice. I'm going to start running practices with the clock and have them down 16, 20 and make them claw their way back up. We're going to look at different serve receive options to kind of get them using different people. I think in the Ambridge game, once we saw the numbers and everything, they started keying on, one passer, and he's an excellent passer, but when you get 90% of the balls, served to you, you're gonna, we got to take a little of that off. That's a little bit too much pressure in a game like that. So, there's a lot that we can do. That we're going to continue to work on. We always need to be working on our blocking and all of that. But we've got a lot of ideas. We take stats, so we read those stats. We talk to the boys about the stats, and we implement change. So.
Fantastic. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yes.
And we'll see that perfection coming up on our airwaves on the North Catholic Sports Network this Tuesday against Olsh. We'll have that one broadcasted. We will not be on the call for that one, as we have we're taking a couple different directions on Tuesday. But we'll be back the following week with broadcasts as they'll have a home game against Montour and Hopewell.
Yes.
On that following week as we come back from Easter break. And I'm sure we'll be broadcasting at least one of those two with us there on the call. And thank you very much for coming in today, Coach. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And you just heard from Coach Ball, a good interview. We thank her for her time and looking forward to doing number 4 next year, as it'll be our final year here, and we'll do 4 interviews.
Can you believe that? Already coming up on that, and it's going to be exciting to cover them this season. And we look forward to their games to come and look for our broadcast schedule on the North Catholic Sports Network, and we'll have those games that we'll be covering up there. And we thank you for listening to this podcast today.
Yep, and remember, we are your one-stop podcast for everything North Catholic.